presentation.
All using the same.
They're all loaded online. So your slides are okay. And we'll get back to you later.
Excuse me.
We're recording. We're good to go. All right. Again, my name is Anthony. I go by Tony McDonald. I'm going to introduce our lead speaker today, Kata Clady. She is a licensed California attorney and the founder of Clady Immigration Law, where she is dedicated to helping individuals and families navigate the complexities of U.S. immigration law. She also serves as an attorney with New Frontier Law Firm, where she continues her lifelong commitment to justice, freedom, and opportunity for all. Kata earned her law degree from Loyola University Chicago Law in Chicago. Over the past 2 decades, she has served immigration and refugee communities across the U.S. and internationally, including work in Italy, Kosovo, Albania, and Central Florida. She is deeply passionate and about democracy, human rights, and the belief that everyone deserves to live freely and with dignity. Her long-term goal is to serve as an immigration judge and to continue shaping policies that strengthen justice and compassion in immigration law. I present to you, Kata Clady.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Can you see me? I'm sure.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, let me know if you can hear me. I can shout. So thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting us. That's my husband, Dave, both of us to be here. We're from Hobart, Indiana, so it's nice to come to Valpo Resistance. I'm here today to talk a little bit about my story, what I do, my job, our country, and what we can do as a community to move forward. I am going to share some sad stories about my story growing up, the history of this country, what is happening in our country right now. And the goal is not to make us feel sad. The goal is not to make us feel guilty about what has happened in our country. The goal is not to make us feel hopeless for the future, but to help us see a pattern that has happened throughout history, not just in the United States, but all over the world, where democracy gets attacked, dismantled, and what we can do, how we can learn from those stories, from those moments in history, as we are wrestling with the idea of what democracy is and what we can do to save that. So I'm going to start with my story. I am from Albania. Albania is a small country in Europe, Eastern Europe. It was under communism. It resembled North Korea for 50 years. My grandfather had to leave Albania in 1947 because he was against communism, wanted to fight for democracy. So he was forced to flee the country, pursue justice, help the vulnerable, make a difference, be brave, never stop trying. Those were the last words he whispered to my mother's ears when he left the country in 1987. He hugged her, he said those words and disappeared into the night. My mother never saw him again. She was only 10 years old when that happened. He came here to America to fight for democracy here, to embrace democracy here, hoping to bring his family here so his family could enjoy the fruits of democracy here. He died alone in this country, 1979, he died in Detroit, never knowing if his sacrifice mattered. But his words lived. They lived in my mother, who grew up in a labor camp. They lived in my father, who fought oppression for 30 years. They lived in my brothers, who helped bring communism down in 1990s. They lived in me. Yes, I grew up during a very strict communist system. I grew up with persecution and poverty, but I also grew up with high purpose. In my house, we didn't talk about toys or vacation. I had no toys. We never went on vacation. But we talked a lot about democracy, human rights, courage, human dignity, and fighting for our rights. That's why I became an attorney, because deep down I grew up to believe that the law protects the vulnerable, doesn't harm them. So I stand here today as a first-generation immigrant, as an attorney, and as a witness. That is my story. I have seen what happens when democracy dies. I also have seen what happens when people refuse to be silent. So democracy, what is democracy? We talk about democracy so much. We wrestle with the word, we wrestle with the meaning. We wrestle to understand it, and actually it is not that complicated. Democracy didn't start in America, it started thousands of years ago. 2,500 years ago, in ancient Greece, people started discussing democracy. Ordinary people just started gathered in public places, debated, argued, voted, and decided that it was the ordinary people's job to hold people accountable, to hold the leaders accountable. They invented the word democracy. Demo, people, crazy for the people, power to the people. And then Rome continued it. Rome carried the torch and built what we today call the Republic. They decided no leaders, no kings, no rulers. We elect our leaders and we get to fire them. And the government is meant to serve the people, not to rule over them. History has shown us through thousands of years that we wrestle with democracy. We gain it and we lose it. And we regain it again and we lose it again. And that's what happened in Greece. They lost it. That's what happened in Rome. They lost it. That's what happened in Eastern Europe, where I grew up. That's what happened in Western Europe. They're still wrestling with that. And every election, they get so close to losing it. Why is that the case? Because democracy is hard. Democracy requires courage, constant fighting. Democracy is not easy. But democracy, it's a simple concept. It just means power in the hands of the people. That's what the word democracy means. America started wrestling with the word democracy in the 1700s. We created our independent republic, what we call the land of the free. And that's when it gets a little sad, because we have to talk about the sad part of it. Was America the land of the free for everyone? No, it wasn't. It wasn't not the land of the free for Native Americans. It was not the land of the free for African Americans. Not for women, not for immigrants. But there was something magical happened. Even though the dream was not perfect, in that moment when America was created, we wrote down a powerful promise. A powerful promise to the people that America was going to be the country where all men are created equal. That America was going to be the country where we, the people, have the power in our hands. A promise that America was going to be a country to provide liberty and justice for all. And it's a wonderful promise. It's a promise that communities, Black communities, African Americans, immigrant women, marginalized communities have embraced. And we grab it, and we protest, and we shout, and we go to the powerful, and we say, see, that's what America was built on. That's what we promised. That's what we put on paper. Make it happen for us. Make it true for us. And that was what was so beautiful about the beginning of this country. It wasn't a democracy. We slowly are becoming a democracy. And we have to fight for it. It wasn't a perfect dream, but the goal is not to dismantle it. The goal is not to completely get rid of it. It's a beautiful promise, and we have to redeem it. It's our job right now to move forward. The system has failed us. They have continued to fail us. From the beginning, they continue to fail us. And we know what happens every time the system fails. The powerful, instead of finding a solution for things that go wrong, what do they choose to do? They find someone to blame. They create an enemy, a distraction, a target for fear and anger. And this is a pattern that has been happening in America, all over the world. This is not new. We didn't invent this. It's not just happening right now. It always happens. Going back to Native Americans, what did we call them? Savages. They were savages, and they were so lucky that us civilized people came here to bring civilization to them. So it's okay to take everything from them, destroy the culture and the nation, because they were savages. They were the enemy. African Americans, how millions of people were kidnapped from their home, including women and children, to come here and build what we call the land of the free. Wasn't it free for them, was it? No. We called them property. They weren't fully human. So it was okay to own them. And I know this is sad for us, but this is not about us feeling responsible and guilty. This is about us recognizing the patterns. If they were property, that it was okay to own them. If they weren't fully human, that it was okay to chain them in the basement of the churches, while us Christians were worshiping a God, being thankful for the democracy and the freedom we had here in this country. I don't know if you've heard about Irish Americans. When the economy collapsed in the 1800s, what did we do? They blamed it on the Irish Americans. They were criminals. They weren't white enough. There were signs hanging on the doors of businesses saying, no Irish need apply. What happened? They persevered, they endured. They built what we call today the labor movement. We have unions today thanks to the Irish people, because they fought for their rights. Italians, 1800s, they weren't white enough. In 1891, they were mafia. 11 Italian men were lynched. One of the largest mass lynchings in US history. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Chinese Americans built our railroads, but they were banned by the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. Beaten, burned out of town, murdered. Japanese Americans, more than 120,000 of them, were kidnapped from their homes and put in concentration camps during World War II. What was their crime? Their ancestry. They looked Japanese. They were actually American citizens. Do we see the pattern yet? We see the pattern. The system fails. Instead of fixing the problem, what do? We blame a very vulnerable group of people. We divide, we distract, we dehumanize. And while we fight for it with each other, the powerful stays untouchable. Even to this day, the current administration, the current powerful people are targeting many groups of people in this country right now. And that's why you are here. Because we see it. We know that it's wrong. We know it's not right. Starting with detention without justice. We all seen the videos of our immigrant neighbors being arrested, put in detention center, deported with no due process, no right to representation, to hearing, to trials. Families have vanished with no trace. We don't know where they are. Children, minor children, are being deported to countries that they've never known. There's no family connection whatsoever. And we call it a policy. If you say this is our policy, I guess it makes it okay to kidnap people off the street these days. This is not a policy. It's cruelty. And we have to call it the way it is. Illegal stops and searches. I don't know if you've heard a lot about it, but for many people in this country, they're being stopped, questioned, and searched simply because of how they look. Ordinary acts, like going to work, walking home, visiting family, become dangerous when suspicion is tied to your skin. You heard about walking while Black, driving while brown, existing while immigrant. When you are afraid to walk, to drive, to live freely, you are not free. This is not freedom. This is control and fear that is being disguised as law and order. You've heard, I'm sure we have at some point, at some level, have accepted it by now that some people are just above the law. We preach about how nobody is above the law. That's where we stand, but somehow we have accepted some people are actually above the law. Police is above the law. The government is above the law. Our president right now is above the law. We all look at the TV every day and be like, how can he do this? Is this legal? Why can't someone stop him? How? How is it possible? If we did something like that, we would end up in prison. Yes. When citizens break the law, we face punishment. When some other people, institutions break the law, sometimes the worst that happens is paid leave. And we have accepted it. We somehow just live with it. And we continue to preach. Our government, our institution, the powerfuls continue to preach every time they punish us that it's about law and order. That's why we're stopping your children at night for absolutely no reason, because we are about law and order. There is no law and order without justice. This is fear. This is about us knowing our place and accepting the fact that we are not going to get away with anything, but they can, because they are above the law. Qualified immunity. I don't know if you hear about it at all, but basically what it is that if the government officials, police violate our rights, they can still escape justice. They can raid their own home, they can kill innocent people, they can break the Constitution and walk free. Because no previous case was decided on that can be used as precedent and case law to prosecute these people. Which basically what it is permission to abuse power. No accountability whatsoever. So if the police comes after you, they break into your home late at night, if the government decides to not prosecute, there is nothing you can do about it. You cannot sue them in court. You cannot go after them. You're just gonna have to depend on the same government that has come after you to hopefully somehow find a way to protect you. I'm sure you heard about what happened in Chicago with the ICE raids. How the ICE showed up in the middle of the night in Chicago, broke into people's homes, most of them American citizens, dragged them out the house, zip-tied children, little black children crying, naked, scared. Neighbors screamed as officers shouted orders they didn't understand. The building echoed in terror. We woke up in the morning, we're like, wow, another one, so sad. Most of these people were US citizens. Black communities, targeted. Well, at least makes it clear to us, this is not about immigration. It's about fear and control. It's about reminding us, the entire neighborhoods, groups of people, that power could enter any home at any hour without reason. That they completely control us, and there's nothing we can do about it. Why? Because they can just say, this is an emergency, we are declaring emergency powers, our country is being invaded by our own people, our own neighbors, so we're just gonna surpass Congress and courts and we're just gonna do whatever we want. That's basically what is happening in our country right now. The government, the president, the executive branch of the government is claiming extraordinary powers. He's putting soldiers on our streets. He's suspending our rights. He's ignoring accountability in the name of safety. We somehow are in an emergency that we don't know about. We need to be saved by our own government from our own neighbors. And we call it security. But when fear becomes law, freedom becomes optional. So you don't have to follow due process to break into American citizens' home anymore, to kidnap people off the streets, to arrest them, or resist for protesting on the streets peacefully. And this has not just happened here in the States. Every authoritarian leader has used this playbook, this pattern. Hitler did it. He did exactly the same thing. If you don't know much, I know we talked with Robert about history of Germany. He did it. He followed the same playbook, same pattern. Mussolini did it. Mussolini created fascism in Italy. The dictator in Albania that resembled North Korea did it. I lived it. And every authoritarian leader does it. Exactly the same pattern. Fear becomes the policy. Freedom becomes optional. Democracy requires truth. Truth requires free press. When truth is censored, the people are left in darkness. You heard about Pentagon. I'm telling a lot of stories because these things are happening. We're not talking theory right now. We're talking things that are happening in our country right now. Pentagon told journalists they cannot talk about anything, they cannot publish anything without their approval. Major networks refused. They were banned, kicked out the building. We saw it the other day in the news with their little boxes, with plant in the box, documents, everything. They were fired. They were out of the building. We woke up in the morning. Oh, another thing. My goodness, can't keep up these days. We moved on with our day. It is not about national security. This has nothing to do with national security. This is censorship. That's what is happening in our country right now, and we have to say it as it is. White House secretary, when the reporters ask hard questions, instead of answering, what does she sneers back with? Your mom jokes. We heard that 2 days ago. They asked who decided where Putin and President Trump were going to meet. She responded with your mom. People are like, this is so immature. Why are people doing that? And this is a mockery of our system. Contempt for accountability, what basically they're telling us. We don't have to bother to answer your questions anymore. You don't hold us accountable anymore. We can say and do and mock you and do whatever we want. Create fear, blame the vulnerable, pass extreme laws, silence the truth, call it safety. That's the formula. That's how they do it. That's how they've been doing it everywhere throughout history around the world. And that's how democracy does. Not overnight, not with a signature, quietly, legally, piece by piece, day after day. It's destroyed not by the powerful, but by ordinary people like you and me that choose to be silent. That fall prey for the pattern, fight with one another instead of fight together for our rights. Democracy has never been protected by the powerful. It's always been saved by ordinary people who refuse to be silent. And we have a choice right now. We have a choice as a nation to choose what kind of democracy we want, how we want to move forward from here. I know politically we have different opinions. We were talking with Robert about how we come from different backgrounds, have different opinions about many things, religion, politics, abortion, spirituality, sexuality. It doesn't matter. This is not about left and right. This is about all of us coming together, having a middle ground, drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where we all meet together as a nation, and deciding what that is. The middle ground is not about agreement. It is about our shared humanity. It's about our shared democracy, something that we are all benefiting from, that our children have to inherit from us. When we protect the vulnerable, we protect ourselves. If we don't stand with them now, no one will stand with us later. This is our middle ground. Protecting the vulnerable groups of people is not an opinion, it's not about politics. It's about our shared humanity. That we are all fellow humans on this earth that deserve equal rights, liberty, and justice for all. That was the promise of America. That was the promise, the miracle, the magic that happened when America was created, that we have to hold on to. That we have to shout on top of our lungs, that we have to tell the powerful, see, you promised us this, make it happen for us, for all of us. So what do we do? How do we act right now? What practically can we do as a community to save our democracy? Show up. Thank you for showing up today. It's a good first step. Show up. Power belongs to those who appear. Speak up. Silence is consent, and your voice matters. I know you feel so helpless right now. You feel like, I keep showing up. There were 7 million people protesting the other day. Nothing happened. Your voice matters. Speak up. Continue to speak up. Protect each other. Protecting the vulnerable protects democracy. Because if they can treat immigrants that way without due process, that's how you are going to be treated in the near future. There won't be any due process for you. Organize locally. Change start on our streets, in our neighborhoods, school boards, local elections, mayor, judges. Change happens locally. Build coalitions, reach out to people that think differently than you. Come together, find the middle ground, the shared humanity, the desire to protect. We all want democracy. We all want to protect it, find the middle ground and build those coalitions because we need to be united right now. Use your rights, vote, run, sue the government, testify, educate. Rights unused are rights lost. And that is very important for us to understand that. Hold power accountable. Ask the hard questions. Demand answers. Expose the lies. I know we've gotten so used to the lies, haven't we? We just say, oh, that's what they do. They just lie. But lies become truth if we don't expose them. If someone doesn't speak up in their press conference and say, wait a minute, what you said was a lie. There is nothing to support that. It's not true. Probably they'll be dragged out of the press conference if they say that, but they still have to say it. We have to say it. We have to confront the lies. Because then if we don't, our immigrant neighbors become criminals. We dehumanize them. They're not human anymore, and it's okay to chain them. It's okay to put them in detention center, concentration camps, and ship them to a country where they don't belong. Support frontline fighters, lawyers, journalists, teachers, activists. If they fall, we fall. So if people dare to speak up and fight, support them. Be there for them. Tell the truth, because stories change hearts, and hearts change systems. Never, ever be silent. The famous words of Martin Luther King Jr., in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. Silence is surrender. So what are we going to choose to do right now? Be silent, be sad about what has happened in the past. We didn't even know about all these horrible things that have happened in our country. Be sad about where we're at. Be sad about where it's going. Silence is not an option for us. I want to go back to my story, my sad story growing up in a communist regime, my grandfather leaving, dying here with no hope. He said, pursue justice, help the vulnerable, make a difference, be brave, never stop trying. That's what he whispered in my mom's ears before he left. Those were the last words he said. Those words survived the harsh dictatorship. They survived persecution, and they survived the silence. Now they live in me, and they should live in all of us. Like I said, I am a witness, not just a first-generation immigrant. I was in Albania. I was there witnessing when communism fell. I was there when I saw a nation rise from the ruins of fear and change the brutal system. My brothers helped elect the first democratic president, and they served in the first democratic government. I got to witness that. I remember the streets filled with farmers, teachers, mothers, students, all shouting one word that had been forbidden for decades. Guess the word? Democracy. Democracy and freedom. The sound of the word I remember was like a thunder breaking chains. It was the moment when ordinary people realized that their voices could bring down a regime. I have seen it with my own eyes. I call it the power of the people who refuse to be silent. They saved democracy in Albania. It took a long time, but they did save it. My family was part of it. It's part of my family's legacy. And that's why I am here fighting for our democracy here. Because that same power lives in us, lives in every person who still believes in the promise of democracy, in the promise that was written on paper centuries ago, that all people are created equal, that we, the people, hold the power, and there should be liberty and justice for all. Those words should live in us, and every voice that speaks truth, every hand that helps a neighbor, every heart that still believes freedom and democracy are worth fighting for. So we can choose to be silent, or we can refuse to be silent. Those are our two choices we have. When we're silent, democracy dies. When we refuse to be silent, eventually, it's hard, but eventually we save it. And our children are gonna hold us accountable one day. They're gonna ask us, what did you do when the system was crumbling, when democracy was dying? What did you do? And I hope that our answer will be, when democracy was falling, I answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have some time in the schedule. Would you open to some questions now?
Yep.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes in the schedule now for questions and discussion. At the end, we'll have a time, we'll bring all of our panelists up front. So we have some time for responses, questions, comments.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Can you tell us a little bit about your current law practice? What do you do? What, how do people contact you? Do you welcome new cases?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm currently an immigration lawyer. I am immigration attorney. I help immigrants that are here in this country or want to arrive here legally. There are many options that our law provides for many of our undocumented immigrants that are here currently. So I studied immigration law in law school. So this is what I do. There are what do we business card and pamphlets over there that can tell you more about our business, the way to reach us. If you know immigrants that are looking for legal solutions to stay in this country legally, or they think about different paths but they're not sure about it and want to consult a lawyer, they can call us. We will be more than willing to have free consultations with them and advise them according to the law. I know many people are surprised that for people that are currently undocumented in the country, there are legal paths for them to continue to stay here. Some of them are very long. Some of them are just not known to ordinary people, immigrants in this country, but that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this. And we are taking new clients currently. It has been challenging if people are afraid to call us. They're afraid to start the process because somehow they think that USCIS is just going to detain them and arrest them and deport them. But that's not what's been happening. We are still fighting for the government to respect and follow the law when it comes to immigration law. And we're fighting hard for that, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you.
Questions in the room or comments?
Can you give us a couple examples of what some of those paths are for, because I'm sure we've all known people that have been here for many years
Yes.
and have held jobs, but are still illegal. What are some kinds of those?
There are many, many paths. I'm sure you heard about marriage, marrying an American citizen, undocumented immigrants here that eventually marry an American citizen, depending on their entry, if it was illegal or not. They can eventually adjust status here. That's what the process is called, and get a green card here and eventually become US citizens. Like I said, that depends the process, the length of the process, what kind of path you follow depends on their entry, if they entered illegally or not. A lot of people come here with different kind of visas, visitors, work visa, and then when they arrive here, they're looking for other options. So that's an option for that. We represent people that claim asylum here in the United States. It is surprising for many people when we tell them that by international law, immigrants have the right to arrive in this country and claim asylum at the border and put in the system and eventually defend that claim in court. That is the law. It is following the law. That is not illegal. They're not breaking the law, arriving here to this country because they're afraid to stay home for many different reasons. And one of them is because the government is persecuting them. They have the right to come here to find a lawyer and to say, I am undocumented right now, but I'm afraid to go home because my ex-husband was abusing me and now he's after me. And I went to the police department and they're not going to do anything about it. So I had to leave the country with my minor children and here I am. And they have the right to claim asylum, even though they have entered the country without documents and without a visa. They're not illegals. The law doesn't call them illegals. They can pursue the path of asylum here. They get in front of a judge and they have to defend their claim and convince the judge that somehow, because they're afraid to go back, they should stay here and eventually become permanent residents. That's one path. There are many undocumented here, immigrants here that are victims of a crime. Life happens, someone threatens them, breaks into their home, murders their family members. And for undocumented people that are a victim of the crime here in the United States, and they help the Justice Department by calling the police and help give the police enough information to help them to find the criminals and prosecute them. There are paths for them as well. They're called U visas, T visas, different types of visas. It's an option for people, and they don't have to have legal entries. They don't have to have status here. If you are completely undocumented, you can pursue something like that. There are different types of visas, VAWAs for people that women especially, it's called violence against women, was something that was passed in Congress, I think by President Biden when he was a senator at the time. It's for women that are in abusive marriages, married to an American citizen, being abused, and feel stuck and cannot leave the relationship because they threaten them, they threaten to deport them, or for some reason they have not finished the process of helping them to become documented here. Those we have, when I was working for non-for-profit in Hammond, we had a lot of those people that reached out to us, afraid, couldn't leave the abusive relationship because they had an American citizen child and the husband was threatening them to deport them and to keep the children here in the United States. Well, the law says that women in those situations, even with illegal entries and with no status here, can pursue something that is called Violence Against Women Act that eventually leads to a green card. It is a long process. It has a wait of 5-6 years right now. That's why so many people are discouraged from pursuing these types of visas, but eventually leads to a green card and is a good option for many, many people in this country. There are many other options as well. We can go on and on about legal paths for undocumented immigrants to become documented here, but they are complicated, they're long, they're expensive, and for sure, most of the people, they need to speak to immigration lawyers about it because you need to know the facts of the case very well before you decide if a person is eligible for specific paths and if the law allows it.
No, the 10 minutes is about up, but is there a brief answer to, is there any hope that with the Supreme Court, because cases take a long time in the Supreme Court to work their way through the system. Is there any hope that as the Supreme Court starts to make more decisions, that they might set limits on the current administration? Even though it's a conservative court, is there hope that they might really, on many issues, set some limits?
There is always hope. We can always hope. So far it's not happening, unfortunately. I don't know what has happened to the Supreme Court. It feels like they have abdicated the throne. Throughout history, what I learned in law school is that they were fighting hard for a while to have that power and to be the final decision maker to interpret the law. It seems like they have lost that. I respect the Supreme Court. I hope that they will stand firm and protect our democracy. But throughout history and what we've been talking about for the past 40 minutes, it usually is not them that say that. It is us, it is ordinary people. Somehow the powerful work together, or because of personal interest, they give up. And we cannot depend on them. We hope they stand with us. We hope they set boundaries and limits to the power that the executive branch of the government has right now. But if they don't do it, and probably they won't do it, if they don't do it, it's going to be up to us to fight and save it. And that's the unfortunate truth. And throughout history, it's usually been the people rising up, the ordinary people like us, that have saved democracy.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I got to go. Please, I have one question. Please explain to people that these are not ordinary times, and there's a difference between struggling for democracy and privilege. There's a difference between democracy and privilege.
Yes.
There are two different things.
Yes.
That was great.
Thank you. No, these are not ordinary times. I come from Eastern Europe. I lived communism, and this is not ordinary. This is scary. We cannot be apathetic about this. We cannot be quiet. We cannot just hope for the best. It's just gonna keep getting worse and worse. And it's like he said, it's not just losing some privileges, and it's just gonna be a little bad for a while, and midterm elections are coming, and 2028 is coming. We will not have a 2026 and a 2028 election if it continues like this, and that's the reality of it. And it's not because we're pessimistic and we want to be dramatic about it. It's because that it has happened all over the world during different times of history. And the truth is that it can happen here, and is happening here.
Oh, I was familiar using computers. I thought I missed a one. That's the funding. Yeah. Okay. Are you still from Philadelphia? Oh, Rebecca said that. Yeah.
Here we can just refill. My hands would go.
You look familiar. I thought it was Errol. Can you set me up? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what
All right, thank you for that brief pause for some technical issues. But my name is Adam Gibson-Even. I serve as Vice President of the Northwest Indiana African American Alliance. Very happy to introduce our next speaker, Lisa Nicole of NWI Activists, Northwest Indiana Activists. Is a local hairstylist, has lived in Valpo for 20 years. She's been a teacher and started 2 businesses. Has been protesting since the Black Lives Matter protests and the Roe v. Wade, that result being overturned. But she's never organized protests until this year. Saw a need for someone to step up and start organizing, and people started looking to her. since she seemed to be the first one on the streets in Valpo this year with the specific goal of protesting against Trump. From her background starting businesses, she brings management and marketing experience, and as she says, just started a group and ran with it. The Northwest Indiana activists, their protests have had something of a variable schedule, approximately twice a month. They've often been on the south side of the courthouse in Valparaiso, often very well attended. One distinctive feature, as I've seen it, as well as the protest, they've had a community action goal. They've generally had a fundraiser or a collection, raising funds to retire medical debt, pet food collections, school supplies, diapers, books, food for food banks, a different theme for every protest, along with all the extra logistics that takes to find good homes for all those donations and to make the deliveries. I'll say it's my pleasure to welcome Lisa Nicole.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great, all right. So, you're correct, I'm Lisa Nicole. I started NWI Activists. I literally have never done this before, so bear with me. I'm just gonna kind of wing it today because I don't really know what else to talk about other than trying to find ways to get you guys more involved in what I'm doing and what other people are doing and try to combine efforts with as many people as possible. And that's kind of been my goal since I started this. Back February 5th, I had kind of caught wind that there was this grassroots organization kind of trying to start up on the West Coast. There was some talks about it in NWI, but everybody was kind of on the fence as to whether it was a valid thing or not because there was nobody actually sponsoring it. There was no well-known politicians backing it up. There was no big organizations that were already well-known saying this is a valid thing. So everybody kind of stepped back. And my thought was, why not still go out whether it's a valid thing or not? Because as long as I show up, at least I can say I did something and I can post pictures on Facebook or TikTok or something and tag this new grassroots organization and be like, hey, I was in Valpo, Indiana, and it was just me and one friend, and I just wanted you to know I was standing in solidarity way out here in Indiana for you. That was my only goal, and to just be out there protesting because I did not agree with Trump getting in a second term. I had been sounding the alarms since he said he was running again, and everyone told me I was blowing things out of proportion. I was over exaggerating how bad things were going to get. I was overreacting. Things were not going to get that bad. This is exponentially worse than I was even anticipating back then. I did not see it getting this bad. And then hearing like you saying you have come from these types of things already is terrifying to me because you have seen it happen. You know the end game where this is going. And my personal opinion, if you don't listen to things like this, that's just stupid. Because she has lived this. She knows what's happening and she's sounding the alarm saying this is not okay. This is terrifying times. People need to start getting on board. So February 5th, I posted on Facebook, I was going out in the freezing cold to stand in solidarity with this new unknown organization, 50-51. 50 states, 50 protests, one day. That was their goal. They wanted at least one protest at every state capital in one day. And I don't remember if they even achieved it that day or not. I obviously was not down at the state capitol. I was at the courthouse in Valpo. Me and one friend went out there and froze our butts off for an hour. I was shocked. I had about a dozen people walking around downtown, driving around downtown, get out of their cars, come up to us on the sidewalk, ask if they could shake our hand and thank us for standing out there. I thought we were going to get people flipping us off and calling us names and coming up and harassing us, and not a single person said anything negative. 12 people stopped and thanked us. And over half of those people asked if I was going to do this again, could they give me their number or their email address and let them know so they could come out and join me. And that blew me away because I didn't know anyone else cared that much. Two complete strangers out on the corner a dozen strangers coming up to thank them, and another 6 or 7 asking if they can come out and join me the next time. So the next time I heard about something was on President's Day. So that would have been February 17th, I believe. 5051 said they were going to do it again. So I posted on Facebook because my friends on Facebook said they wanted to join me, and I messaged a couple people that gave me their information and said, hey, I'm going to do this again. That day ended up being negative 14-degree wind chill. It was awful. By the time I found a parking spot downtown and got out of the car, there was already over 40 people standing on that corner. Negative 14-degree wind chill. Was running late getting down there because I was running around trying to find hand warmers and things to keep people warm. I had somebody else that I knew offer to buy catering size coffee and hot cocoa if I would go pick it up so I could keep people warm that way. So I was running a little bit late. When I got down there, some lady had already gone all over Valpo and bought out every hand warmer from every store and was just passing them out on the corner to even people just walking around like, here, stay warm, it's cold. Like, it was overwhelming. And I'm gonna tear up again. Every time I think about it, it was just overwhelming because I don't know these people. Out of that whole corner, I think there was 3 people that I actually knew. And there were complete strangers buying coffee and hot cocoa for people and handing out hand warmers. And some guy he's a local photographer, just freelance. He saw a crowd on the corner and came down to check us out and came up and found me. And he was like, I don't know who's handing out the hand warmers, but she didn't even know if I was here for good reasons or not. And she came up and offered me coffee and some hand warmers to make sure I was staying warm. And I'm like, these are the type of people we need. Like, if we can get a handful of us that just want to take care of people and do good things, this is going to spread like wildfire. So I started reaching out to those people that came out, and all of those people that came out on the 17th were like, how can we do this again? Please let us know you're going to be here. I went home that night, mulled it over in my head of how am I going to do this. I threw together a Facebook group, NWI activists, and just texted all of those people and emailed them whose numbers I had and emails I had and was like, hey, join this Facebook group. I'm going to make a flyer and I'll start posting flyers every time I go out and do it again. We went out again February 27th. So I went from 2 people to 60 people in that negative 14-degree day. We ended up with 60 people. On the 27th of February, we went out again and there was 150 of us. Like, we just kept multiplying. My birthday lands on March 8th, which just happens to be International Women's Day. I decided I was going to do it again because that's a good reason to come out. And I decided if I'm going to pull at least 100 people, which I think I'm going to get more than that because it's a big day that has had rallies and stuff before, the least I can do is ask these people to bring an item with them to help the people we're out here fighting for rights for and things. So I teamed up with NWI Now. That's another group. They do a weekly protest on the Valpo Square every Tuesday from 12 to 1. They're usually pro-women's rights, LGBTQIA. I teamed up with them. They already have a project going they call it PEP, and it's the Period Equity Project. And I teamed up with them and we collected menstrual products. We ended up with over 500 people on that courthouse square and over 4,000 menstrual pads alone. That didn't include tampons, and some people brought diapers for babies and period cups and all these different items. We couldn't fit them in our cars. We got so many donations. I had to call people up to come pick things up to drop them off at someone else's house because our cars were so full. I got home on my birthday and just sobbed because how overwhelming is that? Like, I literally just made a flyer and said, hey, I'm going to stand on this corner at this time in this day. And hey, can you bring a box of tampons with you? And over 500 people showed up. And the whole time I was out there for 2 hours, people were just thanking me. And people that have been protesting and have been activists and been fighting for my rights since before I was even born are coming up and thanking me for doing this. And it's still overwhelming to me to think that because to me, I'm just running a business and not getting paid for it. I just made a Facebook group, I made an email address, and I just started making flyers and marketing like I did my businesses, and it's taken off. We've been doing bi-weekly protests since my birthday, and we've now raised over 20,000 different items we have had donated between books, school supplies, menstrual products, food, pet food, baby food and diapers. I always end up forgetting all these different drives we've run. There's been so many of them, but 20,000 items since March. And I didn't even do a donation drive at the one we did for No King's Day 2 because there was no feasible way with that many people, and we can't be on the courthouse one for right now. So, but yeah, 20,000 items, and that's me just asking people like, hey, if you're gonna come out, bring a sign and a can of peas. And no one else was doing that. When people started telling me, like other organizers from other cities would reach out and say, I saw you're doing this donation drives and it really inspired us. What can we, how are you doing this? I ended up having a whole team. I can't take credit for how successful the donation drives have been. I have a whole team that does all the calling of all the organizations and pantries and everything. And they set up delivery drivers. So literally as things are coming in, they're boxing them up, giving them to a driver. The driver immediately delivers them. It has been seamless. I cannot take credit for that. I'm just the loudmouth with the megaphone on the sidewalk. They're the organized people. But we have done so much good that I've had so many other people reaching out, and I kind of looked into it after people started saying they hadn't seen anyone else doing it before I did. And as far as I've been able to tell, the one we did on my birthday with the menstrual products, that was the very first mutual aid drive out of all of these protests nationwide that have been happening. And now thousands of them are doing it. Every time I see a flyer with all the, even this just Indiana state protests, there's always a handful of them. Pet food drive, baby food drive, food drive. They're all doing it now. And now is the time to do that. Pantries are overwhelmed. They don't get funding now. People's food stamps have now gotten cut. Their Medicare and Medicaid is getting cut. We don't have any money. These organizations that are trying to do good and help people aren't getting any funding. So my goal is to keep helping these types of places, whether it be just posting, here I've got the, like this. I teamed up with Jordan Hart and Mitch Reynolds, and they are running a debt relief campaign for medical debt for Northwest Indiana. That QR code goes straight to the site. They pick people who are literally drowning in medical debt, and they pay it off sight unseen. Just they collect money from people like us that want to do good and help the community and help people in need, and then they find someone who's in need and say, we're going to take care of it. And that is one less stress they have to be constantly in the back of their mind. If it's food, if it's medical debt, if anything you can think of to help people, we got to be doing it right now. Like yesterday was far too late. Today is too late. We should have been prepping for this and doing this last year when we saw this coming, because everybody was already drowning when things weren't this bad. And it's bad. It's really bad now. And hearing from the people delivering the food and the donation items to these pantries, hearing my team telling me when they call, hearing these like little elderly ladies that are there one day a week, and that's the only help these pantries have. And then when you show up with a trunk load of boxes of food and they have to sort it all and put it on the shelves themselves. They need volunteers. They need donations, monetary. They need item donations. The animal shelters are overwhelmed. Everything is overwhelmed. And I don't know how to fix it. And it's frustrating because I'm a problem solver kind of person, and I see a need for something and I just jump in and do it. And I can't fix this. And even if I have 1 million people showing up every week, every day at these protests, at these mutual aid drives, that's still not going to fix things at all. it's gonna make a dent and it's gonna help a lot of people, but this isn't solving problems. So I'm constantly looking for new ideas, new people that I can make connections with. I have people constantly asking me how they can get involved, and all I can do is keep saying, just help. If you can't physically come out and be boots on the pavement, trying to get people to vote, trying to make noise at protests, doing any other type of on the ground activism work, if you can monetarily donate, if you can find someone on Facebook and be like, hey, if I order some groceries or a grocery cart, can someone pick it up from me and take it somewhere and give it to someone? Going through like people that are on Facebook, there's always groups of like Porter County helping people or something. And it's people looking for food. They've lost their homes. They need help with motel rooms. We've got to help. I've been promoting, I feel like I'm just rambling, so I apologize, but I've been promoting, there's an organization. Yeah. Oh, thank you. There's an organization I've been promoting called lasagnalove.org. If anybody likes to cook or knows people that like to cook and they're willing to get groceries and let people cook, a lasagna feeds a family very well, and that's a hot meal in a home that might not have otherwise had it. And lasagnas, yes, they're kind of complicated to make, but it feeds a lot of people. And it's a nice hearty meal that people don't typically get. And when you're living on ramen noodles, if you've just had a baby and you're recovering and can't get up and you're struggling, if you just had surgery, if you're just disabled, if your power is getting cut, anything, somebody shows up at your door with a lasagna and they're like, let me take a weight off of you for a night, for dinner, for the next 2 days, whatever. That, like, imagine if you were having a rough time and somebody just showed up at your door. Like, that shows that they care. And the one thing I have noticed, if you just show up, you don't even have to do anything. If you just show up, or even if you don't show up, but you just talk about it and you talk about helping people, or you tell stories, like you were telling stories of things that you've encountered. When you're open and constantly in that communication, people come out of the woodwork. I went from 2 people in February, that Facebook group alone, just the Facebook group, and I have other social media and an email list, just the Facebook group alone is 1,500 people. From February, it didn't even exist. Like, and that's just me being obnoxious on the internet and posting flyers constantly. That's not me going up and shaking hands of 100 people every week and being like, hey, I have this Facebook group. Hey, come out and join us. That's just me being obnoxious on the internet. And most of us are on the internet all the time anyways. You know, some people, you've got their email addresses, you've got their Facebook, their TikTok, Instagram, whatever. I've got Instagram, I've got TikTok, I've got a personal Facebook page under the NWI activist name. I've got a public business page under the NWI activist name. And those have thousands of followers and friends. And all I do is post flyers. That's all it takes. So if you don't protest, but you think you have friends that do, and you see a flyer somewhere, whether it's mine or another group's, there are so many other groups. In fact, there's going to be another group that comes up and speaks after me, and they're another protest group. So there are 3 of us, 3 different groups alone in Valpo at that courthouse regularly. The resistance group is every Saturday, the NWI Now group is every Tuesday, and mine bounce around on different days, but they're typically about every 2 weeks. So that's a lot of opportunities to just come out, and you can even bring a lawn chair and just chill on the sidewalk. You don't have to get up and march around and make noise. You can just sit there. It matters. I was up there for a couple minutes or for an hour, and then now I have a whole following of people. So however you can get involved, mutual aids, like I've got these are the QR codes for my email list and my Facebook page. I post different opportunities to do stuff. If you don't want to scan the codes, I've got like a thing to fill out. But get involved however you can. Anytime you see somebody needing help, if you can't personally help them, pass it on, because somebody will. And that's the thing I've noticed, as long as I keep asking people like, hey, how can we help? People come out of the woodwork to help, and it makes a huge difference. We've made a huge impact in Valpo.
Thank you very much.
I feel like if anybody wants a signed email list, I've got it here. I can kind of pass it around if you want.
Have the QR codes on paper as well. In the corner, there are flyers that have the QR codes available. And if you'd like to take a question as I switch the slides here, you're welcome,
Oh, yeah.
or we'll have time at the end.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, since I just like ramble for 10 minutes. Yes.
I actually have a comment, actually an apology.
Oh.
To you, I'm Christopher.
Oh,
So I do have a couple comments, but I'm not gonna go into the background, but I've been critical of Lisa and some of the efforts, based on tactics, and that was a point of frustration. That was misplaced.
thank you. Thank you a lot. I appreciate that.
Hearing you speak today. Well, I realize we have a lot more in common. So I apologize. I do want to offer a comment, and it's Dr. Jones.
And we'll have time for one at least. We'll have more time for discussion at the end. But,
Okay.
Yeah, make a comment if you want, and then we'll move along.
Well, Dr. Jones mentioned the difference between democracy and privilege. When I joined the Project Neighbors Board many years ago, first time I met Dr. Jones, Greg, Greg being an intimidating fellow, he's very direct, and he said to me, just came up out of nowhere, he said, what are you doing with this? We were at a retreat for Project Neighbors. And he went on to tell me, he said, if you're gonna stand for something, if you're gonna fight for something, for someone, you gotta be willing to risk something. And I have held that closely all these years. It drives everything I do, for good and for bad. And it just strikes me, like saying privilege. I know a lot of the folks in this room, there's a lot of privilege in this room. Those of us who struggle compared to many others. So I hope everyone will keep that in mind. What are you willing to risk? Greg also said the level of risk is different for everyone, and we recognize that. It changes over time, but these times, these unprecedented times, call for unprecedented risk, and I would just challenge everyone to think about that. Effectiveness and engagement.
Thank you. And we'll have more time for discussion at the end. But let me introduce our next speakers. So I have a pair, in fact, and apologies to Leanne for not getting the agenda updated in time. But Robert Jackowski taught languages for 35 years at the high school and college levels before retiring in 2020. Holds a bachelor's degree in German from Purdue University and a master's in German from Middlebury College in Vermont. In addition to his involvement with our next organization, Valpo Resistance, he's worked as an organizer and consultant for the advocacy group We Make Indiana, and is pursuing advanced studies in theology at the Catholic Theological Union in Chicago. Joined by Leanne Blind-Doskocil, is the staff meteorologist in the Department of Geography, Meteorology, and Environmental Science at Valparaiso University. Passionate about the environment, she's actively involved in the local community through the Valparaiso Environmental Advisory Board and the Valparaiso Native Plants Group. She's also recently joined the Valpo Resistance to advocate for her field of study and for her peers amidst the Trump administration's unjust policies. Leanne earned her bachelor's degrees in meteorology from Texas A&M and went on to complete her master's at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, where she focused her research on severe weather. So I think of the Valpo Resistance Group, we heard about them a bit from Lisa, as the Saturday protest group, faithfully on the northeast corner of the courthouse every Saturday, 11 to 1, they're there right now. You'll find other familiar faces there too. Many in the room may know Paul Schreiner and Cy Moskowitz, among others. And yeah, they're there right now. So I appreciate Leanne and Robert stepping away from that protest to join us today. So welcome.
Much warmer in here.
Thank you, Adam. I thought of this earlier today as the Bernie AOC portion of the program, and you can probably see why. First, the old guy will say a few words, and then the younger professional woman will follow.
That about working with Paul and Cy, I was like, I feel like it's the same kind of dynamic.
Right. So that's where we stand, and I'll zoom out a little bit and provide a little bit of perspective, and then Leanne will get into the history of the Valpo Resistance movement. As I I first want to thank the African American Alliance for the invitation to come and speak on this occasion. I want to recognize both presenters, Kata and Lisa, for their powerful and passionate presentations. I'm completely on board with both. Thank you very much for that. And as you heard in the introduction, I'm a language person. So one of my first instincts is to ask the question, what do we mean by redeeming democracy? So I looked up the word. We hear the word redeem. You redeem a coupon. Some Christian denomination with Christian faith, I guess, talks about a redeemer, redemption. Well, what does this mean? Well, it means, among other things, to get back or recover. Could mean to fulfill a promise or a pledge, to restore the favor, to make worthwhile, justify, and to rescue. I think all of these, if we consider our current state, the political state in this country right now, we could think about that and say, yes, I think we do need to redeem democracy. Effective responses, what does that mean? Well, just again, being aware of time, how do we redeem how is the question I asked myself when I was preparing for this. Well, first thing we can do is recall. The second thing we can do is respond. I put a number of things here, and redress. Remember, react, rectify. These things involve memory, education, and action. And in this section, I'm going to give a little bit of a baby boomers perspective. And I note that in the reports on last week's 7 million person protests, I heard commentators talking about the large number of baby boomers that were connected to this. And I look around the room and I see there are some contemporaries. And that struck me. And I thought, why are there so many baby boomers doing this? And I thought, well, all right, I can't speak for others, but I'll speak for myself. And I'd like to share that now in the context of recalling, responding, and redressing. The other side dreams of some kind of idyllic past, make America great again. What this some past thing that we're supposed to go back to. And I think, well, I'm not in agreement with that. I don't think I don't support that, but I'm thinking, how about our past? And here's the past I grew up with in the 50s, 60s, 70s, my youth as a grade school, high school, college student, and early adult years. Franklin Roosevelt, the New Deal, Social Security. Why? And we don't think, what was that brought in? It's because older people were living in poverty, dying in poverty, starving. That's why that program came in, and people want to cut that now. I'm indignant. To be polite, I'm indignant. The 4 freedoms which he spoke of in 1935, I think it was, in an address to Congress. The 4 freedoms for all Americans, the freedom of speech, of worship, from want, from fear. Franklin Roosevelt. Democrat. And I know there are good Republicans, don't get me wrong, but here's our legacy. This is my presentation. Memory. Grassroots. And by the way, this is a conversation. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying we need to think about these things. The big why. Why do we protest? Why do we rally? Why do we do this? Here's why, in my view. Just me talking. My father wore that uniform. He was proud of his service. He had his Eisenhower. I've got his Eisenhower jacket hanging in my closet. Those men are getting ready to invade Normandy. Why? Because they are Antifa, ironically. The 2 gentlemen sitting next to each other, Roosevelt and Eisenhower, Antifa. Memory. John Kennedy, a hero of mine. PT 109. I saw the movie, I read the book. I got it for a birthday present, the book. Came from a rich family whose father, whatever their faults, and all these men have their faults, of course. I'm not trying to idealize or deify them. They all had their faults. But Joseph Kennedy Sr. taught his sons and daughters to be public servants. Joseph Kennedy Jr., JFK's older brother, died flying a bombing raid into Germany, a secret raid into Germany. Joseph Kennedy Jr. Sr. lost his oldest son to the war. His second son became president, and he gave his life in the cause of the Peace Corps. Resolve the Cuban Missile Crisis. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Memory. Lyndon Johnson certainly had his faults. The Vietnam legacy is a tragic, it's tragic because it obscures so much good that this man did. And he did it for the right reasons. He sacrificed his political career. He sacrificed the South and all that Democratic support to enact the civil rights legislation Kennedy couldn't get through because he was too young and inexperienced. But Johnson got it through. Johnson got the Voting Rights Act through. This is our legacy. Memory. This man needs no introduction. One of the great Americans. Civil rights. Letter from Birmingham jail. I have a dream speech, 1963, Washington, D.C. Nobel Peace Prize, 1964. Deserved. Say no more. Memory. John Lewis, Georgia. Edmund Pettus Bridge March. Well known for the expression good trouble. This is our legacy. This offers answers to the question why. Why do we do these things? Why do we come here this morning? Memory. Even the popular music of the time reflected these issues, and we heard it on the radio all day long, 6 times a day if you're listening to WLS and Larry Dujak. Or whoever, Clark Winston, whoever they were. You probably know better than I do. Bob Dylan, The Times They Are Changing. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? Stevie Wonder, You Haven't Done Nothing. Man, I love that song. It's right after Superstition on the album. John Lennon, Imagine a Better World. A couple other songs I mentioned. Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, Teach Your Children Well. Dion, Abraham, Martin, and John. Bobby. And in preparing for this, I found out Marvin Gaye did a version of Abraham, Martin, and John. You can YouTube it. Effective response, education. I had another slide on this, which offered the idea that we should be teaching we should be teaching history with its warts and all. We should be learning about Vietnam and the race issue, especially after World War II. We should be learning these things in school, the good and the bad. There's nothing wrong with talking about the bad. German students, my wife and I have a lot of experience in Germany. German students must learn the history of the Holocaust and the Nazi movement. It's part of their schooling. The American education system could do a better job of being more forthright about the wrong things we've done. The right things, absolutely, there's a lot of good, a lot of right things were done. But there were some wrong things. They need to be taught. Education, here's my big thing. I think we've forgotten who we are in many ways as a nation. We've forgotten who we are. This Constitution of ours, this is the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. We, the people, as Kata pointed out, we, the people, ordain and establish. Not the president, not a king, not a monarch. We, the people, ordain and establish. The education piece, again, I thought philosophy, constitutional history. Why shouldn't we teach law from 6th grade to 12th grade so that every citizen, every high school graduate has a fundamental understanding of the law and how the Constitution really works? There's a lot of holes in the Constitution, a lot of gray areas. By the way, I mentioned this. I looked this up last night in terms of a third term. You know what the 22nd Amendment says? No person shall be elected third time.
Yeah.
Elected a third time. That leaves a lot of wiggle room. So when Steve Bannon says current president is going to serve a third term, believe him, they're probably working on it as we speak. It says it can't be elected to a third term. Valpo Resistance, and Leanne will take it over here shortly. The big whys. Why do we do it? Because we remember our history and our legacy. I'll speak for myself. I think of these things when I go to a protest. Because we are for more, not less unity. More, not less justice. Domestic tranquility. Defense of the commons. General welfare. And blessing and liberty for all. So that's my piece. And I'm going to turn it over to Leanne for the AOC portion of the program. Thank you.
And they're different.
Oh, God.
Yeah, man, I don't.
It's in PDF right now, so I'm not sure
Oh,
there's an
okay.
easy way. Yes,
Do it.
I don't have an entry here.
Oh. Okay, I had some,
You have notes.
yeah, some pretty.
Let me try and-
important notes.
Yep.
Sorry,
Not at
there's
all.
some things that I couldn't fit on the
I
slide.
have
I
a
wanted to
PowerPoint
read.
version, but the
I think
formatting didn't hold up.
That was very, I don't hold up to AOC or these other very eloquent speakers. I'm not a language person. You all have been amazing and just so powerful and inspiring. I only hope to follow in y'all's footsteps and many great people that come before me. And yeah, I like to think that I fight because I wouldn't be where I am today without the people who fought before me. And I know how privileged I am to be where I am. And so that's why I must continue the fight. And just as you were saying, you know, the dream is not there yet. We have this dream, but we have to keep fighting for it. And even thinking of the preamble of the Constitution, I was listening to this podcast and it says we the people, but at that time that was not everyone.
Right.
And so we have to fight for it to be for everyone to get towards our perfect dream. Yay. Thank you so much.
We'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yay, it does work. Thank you. So I just wanted to talk a little bit today. Thank you so much for having us here today. It's been incredible and I've been so moved by everyone speaking. Just a little bit about the Valpo Resistance, how we got started, what we do, and how you can join us. So I did not come up with this idea. I just heard about it, and I heard about Lisa NWI activists through I actually think I heard about NWI activists first, and then I found out about the Valpo Resistance. But some local citizens just got together and said, hey, we're really upset with what's happening. So many things happening. How can we go about expressing our concern to the public about what's going on? And so they decided that they were going to hold protests every week on Saturday from 11 to 1 on the northeast corner of the courthouse. And that's how we were going to, talk about and show the public what's going on. And yes, we've been joined by other like-minded individuals. Our group grows every Saturday. I think when I started going in like April, we probably only had like 20 people, and I was most certainly the youngest person, which is actually quite refreshing to me because I'm originally from Texas, and so a lot of people I know of the baby boomer generation don't necessarily have the same political views as I do, so it's really comforting to me actually, and I feel like I've met I have so many mothers and fathers and grandparents that I've grown to love through these protests. So who are we, you might ask, coming to these protests? It's young people, it's old people, it's people from all different walks of life. And one Saturday, there was about 30 of us out there, and our, main organizer, Paul, he sends our email list and really inspires me every week. He kind of asked, what's your current or former profession, to get a sense of who the group is. And so I created this word cloud here. I kind of had to like shorten things to make it work, but I just wanted to touch very briefly on all of these different people that were there, even though there were only 30 of us. There was a pastor, an industrial maintenance technician, a medical school administrator, a garden center employee, 4 teachers, radiator repairman, insurance agent, retired Marine, a medical industry coder, title insurance manager, realtor, retail worker, auto salesperson, social worker, another salesperson, college history professor, a builder, school bus driver, nurse practitioner, psychiatrist, database manager, registered nurse, full-time mom, steel mill electrician and veteran, and a meteorologist. That's me. So you can see there that we're all from different backgrounds, but we all unite under our common concern. We are concerned enough for the turmoil happening in this country to stand on the street corner and try to inform the public about what's going on. So what do? We stand on the corner, we hold our signs, we console each other when, you know, policies affecting us directly, indirectly, just seeing, you know, the cruelty happening to the other people in this country. We try to delight in small victories that might be had. I think that's also important to remember, you know, seeing things happen because of our action. Personally, just with a lot of calls that have been made and stuff, some things that affect my field have gotten a bit better. So we try to delight in those victories too, and to notice that our action does make a difference. I tell people it's the most important for us to spread love and kindness. I guess that's me in the third photo. I've kind of become known as the person who smiles and waves. And every time I'm not there, when I come back, they're like, "We've missed your wave and your smile." And I'm like, "Y'all can do it too. Please smile and wave." I think that's the most important message that we can spread. I know, you know, sometimes I'm met with one finger, so I try to meet them with two. If someone says something rude to me, if I can't think of anything nice to say, I'm just gonna wave. Maybe I say, "Have a great day." I think that's our message. And I try to tell people, you know, what do we hope to accomplish with saying something negative or rude in return? Yes, we have freedom of speech, but it comes with consequences. And, you know, you're never going to get on common ground with people if we meet it with hate. So I know it can be sometimes really hard when someone says something really hateful for you to just don't say anything, you know, just say have a great day and move along. I wanted to point out one of our Saturday protests on October 5th. There were some of us on the corner. One of the resistors, Brittany, was like, "Let's tally up how many people are kind of for us versus against us." So positive signs being like thumbs up, you know, peace signs, whatever, negative signs, maybe one finger, mad insults, whatever. Does anyone have a guess of which one was more or less?
It's always more positive.
Yeah, definitely more positive. About 1 in 5 was hostile to positive. So 233 expressions of support and 51 of hostility. But I think it just shows, you know, I hope this shows maybe things turning, or people are waking up. So why we do it? I wanted to share Paul's thoughts, our organizer, kind of why he does it, and then maybe some of my thoughts, you know, because I know we've all been asked, like, why are you standing there? What's the point? So Paul said, initially, there's a simple joy and purpose, having identity, role, routine. You make a sign, you show up on time, whatever. Then the sun bears down and you start getting tired and you think, I could be doing so many other things right now. Then you remember the never-ending bombardment of outrageous news, the big beautiful bill, the Iceman handling of people, the constant flow of lies. And then you realize you're not an elected official, you're not a member of, you know, the legislature, a wealthy donor, you're just a small town citizen in Indiana, and frustration starts to grow and you feel powerless. But you don't feel so powerless when you're standing on the corner and the signs remind you of your purpose. No kings, kindness, not cruelty, no deportation without due process. And we are all here because we want to return to fairness and for everyone to have a chance. And so those were kind of Paul's words. And then why I do it, just like, others have said, people have the power. The democracy means the people have the power. I have a lot of young friends, you know, I come to these protests and I'm like, where are all the people who are my age? You know, lots of them tell me, well, I feel powerless. I feel helpless. Doing this is not going to change anything. It's not going to change my elected officials' opinions. And I tell them that what they need the most when they feel powerless and hopeless is to go out and do something about it. I'm just so inspired every week by the love and support I get from my fellow protesters. I found out about different community organizations that I've joined by going. It's just a beautiful community of love and support. And I also tell them it's not about necessarily changing your elected officials' opinions. It's about the voters. We're the ones who put them there. And I'm still so shocked by the amount of people that drive by and they're like, what are they protesting? Like, what's going on? I'm like, how do you not know what's going on? And so, you know, maybe me holding my signs, hands off federal workers, hands off people, just like, all these crazy things. Maybe that'll cause them to go home and Google things or rethink things and maybe show up to the polls or change their votes. You know, that's really what it's really about. It's the people who have the power. Yeah, and no kings. I just want to talk briefly on it. In June, there wasn't one in Valpo, so lots of scattered elsewhere. I went to the one in Michigan City. There was 1,500 people there, which I thought that was amazing. That was the biggest protest I've seen. And then October, just last week, does anyone know how many people there were?
3,500.
Yeah, it was like something like 3,500 people, which is just incredible. And I think that just it makes me hopeful that, you know, those are just the people who wanted to come out or had the time to come out or who felt like they could come out, you know, and that's really one reason that I fight is, you know, I know that I have privilege and to be able to turn off the news even for a little bit of time every day, that is privilege. And so I need to fight for the people who can't be out there. Okay, so when we meet in next steps, we meet whether it's hot, cold, as the freezing day in February, like you were out there. Yeah, we'll be out there. When it's raining, sometimes they're out there, which I love them, and I'm like, please, as a meteorologist, I cannot say it's okay for us to be standing outside if there's lightning nearby. So please don't stand outside when there's lightning nearby. Public service announcement. But every Saturday, 11 to 1. On the northeast corner of the courthouse. Newcomers are always welcome. Sometimes I can only be there for like 20 minutes. Just come. If you don't have a sign, we have lots of signs. And also, there are these no king signs, the ones that, there's 3 of them in that rightmost photo. Those are free to pick up. You can put one in your yard, in your apartment window, whatever. They only cost $3 to make. They accept donations, but we're trying to get 1,000 of those distributed around just to spread the word. So you can pick those up on Saturday. Come join us. And thank you all for being here today. It's been a pleasure.
And at this time, I would invite all of our speakers up. We can sit together for a little while at least and take some questions, have some discussion. So please join us up front. Who would like to start, sir? Chris?
I want to start by sharing a quote that has been on a post-it note on comes around between my two computers on the support. Frederick Douglass said, and this is just a portion of his quote, "Power concedes nothing without a demand." Going back to the first presenter's presentation, I think it was maybe near the end, the last slide. Organized locally. It's clear that you up there are doing that wonderfully. Hold power accountable. I'm kind of thinking in terms of combining those two. You organize local, you have to hold local power accountable. I think this is a challenge that we need to take up, and I'll be just a bit political here. Childhood poverty in Valparaiso has doubled during the John Costas extended term. Homelessness has increased despite our homeless shelter. It continues to increase. The lack of middle-class jobs has become abysmal. It created nothing but service sector jobs. Boy, I could go on and on. My point here is standing up and protesting the obscenities that are happening at the national level is critical, but where we can have biggest impact is locally. And that means we have got to stop being uncomfortable, making the people in power in Valparaiso feel uncomfortable. I hear frequently that probably from a few people in this room, what a good guy John Costas is. It's got nothing to do with he's a good guy or not. It's got to do with values. And as we look around at our shared values, I would argue that many of them are not shared by John Costas, by civic leaders, by political leaders. John Costas canonized Charlie Kirk. And we saw the quote or the slide about Martin Luther King. I think you all know what was said about him. So I want to challenge people to start taking some of this energy, this frustration, and this organizing and start aiming it at the powers that be. And frankly, that should include Democrats on city council as well. And there is an opportunity to do that Monday. it fits in brilliantly with this discussion about democracy. Barb Domer, my city councilwoman, has presented an ordinance for kind of a citizen-led redistricting commission, even though redistricting in Valparaiso is far out, and we know that is in the news nationally. We can't impact that nationally, but we can here. So I hope that the two groups, the resistance group and the activist group, I want to encourage you to send out an email, a text. You may have already done this. We need 300 people at city council to get this passed Monday night. And
Let's give the panel a chance to respond. So that's Monday evening. Would anyone like to speak to any of those issues?
I'm actually supposed to be meeting with Jesse Harper in the next week or two to see how I can have my group help his campaign to try to help unseat John Costas.
If I might respond to that as well. I was at a city council meeting. And it's true that I said in my presentation, they're good Republicans. They're good people. It's the ideology. And I think we're not sophisticated enough and understand. We get so focused in on the detail, we lose the big picture. It was expressed, there was a presentation about establishing a business here in Valparaiso. And I won't go into the details, but make a long story short, the response, and this was from the mayor, is that the market will take care of it. This is called neoliberalism. And I think most Americans don't know what that means. Most citizens don't know, but it's one thing to focus on the details. Another thing to say the big why. The big why is what we're missing. And this notion of the market having all the answers is almost a religion. It's very hard to persuade people that, no, the government does have a role to play. And this presentation I made about the era I grew up in, where I came out of college with no debt and money in the bank, because I could work part-time. I had a job that paid me $4.35 an hour at the steel mill. So I had a stack of money and a college degree when I got done. Why? Because the laws were allowed that. And what's happened, I've watched it happen. Those laws have slowly been changed, kind of off the radar. And I think the citizens need to zoom out a little bit. Focus on that locally. Think globally, act locally, I get it. But we need to understand the forces, the ideological forces. And we need to have an answer. For me, these protests on the 7 million, I saw, and I don't know if they're fake. You never know these days, but many people couldn't answer the question, why are you here? They really didn't have a good answer. And I think we need to have that answer. And we need to all be giving the same answer, just like the other side does. You have the same, a unified message. Oh, Biden, that's Biden. Everybody says the same thing. You have a unified message. Sorry, I didn't mean monologue.
Other questions, comments?
Okay, so this is a question for Leanne. You mentioned there's 3,500 people at a demonstration. I'm just curious, how do you count those numbers?
Oh, I
think
think
you're
that
in the
probably
counting,
means.
yeah.
So there was a few of us. I bring clicker counters. At the No Kings 2 protest, it was impossible to get an exact number. There were people marching. There were people on literally every corner for 6, 7, 8 blocks. I stood on the corner, the northwest corner of the courthouse with a clicker counter, and everybody was supposed to be starting at City Hall, even though people started literally all over downtown. But I stood on that corner, and as people crossed the street marching from City Hall towards the courthouse, as the light turned green, they started coming across the street. I'm vigorously click, 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 click. And it's hard because even as people are coming across the street, it's hard to keep count because they're 5, 6, 7 wide, and there's little kids in the mix, and there's people trying to talk to me. We did have a couple drones up in the air. Neither one of them got very good footage of how wide the crowd was and how many people were truly there. But yeah, just marching, and I only stood there for maybe 15, 20 minutes because I was trying to do crowd control too. And in that 15, 20 minutes of me just clicking the people marching, I know I didn't even get all of the marchers. And that was 2,250 people just coming across that corner in 15, 20 minutes. So, and that didn't include the courthouse was completely packed. Every corner had at least 25 to 50 people on it. City Hall had another probably 150, 200 people down there. It was nuts. If you weren't there, it was just a sea of people as far as you could see. It was overwhelming how many people were there.
It was awesome.
Yes, yes,
And
very
peaceful.
good overwhelming.
Upfront perhaps.
So I have a question for either Leanne or Robert or anyone who was at the protest on Saturday. So I'm sure you're well aware that at the No Kings protest, there were, I don't know how many, but a lot of tickets given out for people honking in solidarity. I saw many of them happen. One happened to my son's friend, someone honked at me and they got a ticket in front of me. But does that happen on Saturday mornings as well? Do you notice that?
On Saturdays, usually we don't have, there isn't like a huge police presence. They've been called before because I know y'all have dealt with some.
I have a feeling I know why you guys don't take a ticket. They just started doing that at my Labor Day protest. 4 people got tickets at that one. And that started literally the second we started texting the police chief. And demanding he send more officers because I had people from my crowd getting physically assaulted by counter protesters.
Yeah.
And they knew we were going to be down there. Usually we get the county, the sheriff's department and the Valpo PD. Even though we had county permits, they did not even send the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department didn't even know we were there. The sheriff was out of town that week and they just conveniently didn't tell anybody else. And the VPD only sent 2 officers. So as soon as we started demanding more officers to come help us, tickets started getting issued. They said, I only saw 2 more cars show up. The captain and the chief are insisting 4. But either way, none of the officers got out of their cars and helped us on the sidewalk where we were having issues. Instead, they immediately started ticketing people. And the tickets are getting written for different amounts. Some people are getting a $15 like noise ordinance ticket, and some people are getting like $180 moving violation for misuse of their horn. And that's like points on your license.
Yeah.
And over 24 people got ticketed at the No Kings 2. Same issue, some $15, some 180 moving violation tickets. And there was a female officer standing in front of the park writing down license plates. And she openly admitted she'll be mailing tickets to people too. So there's probably another 24 getting tickets. Jesse Harper has said that he will represent pro bono anyone who got a ticket. So if you know anybody, have them call Jesse Harper's office. There is another one as well, and I want to say it was like Campbell attorneys or something, but Ferdinand is his first name, and he's willing to represent people as well. I can get that information too, but definitely call Jesse Harper because I just talked to him the other day and he said to tell people to call and he'll help them.
Yeah, I have, my son's friend has a dash cam video of the situation, and he says, oh, I'm pulling you over because of noise ordinance, and then he says, oh, it's because unlawful use of your horn. So he says 2 different things, because he goes, I don't understand, what's my crime? And this kid's like 20 years old. So he said 2 things within that same stop, and then he issued him a ticket for $180.
Yeah, and I didn't know how many tickets were gonna get issued on Saturday. I was hoping not that many. But I had actually gotten into an argument with the police on, I think it was Tuesday before No Kings. They did not want us marching. They did not want us anywhere but City Hall. And they thought we were only gonna have 200 to 300 people, and we had 3,500. There was no way even 300 would have fit at City Hall. So between the resistance group and myself, we all met, and it was Paul, Cy, myself, and Deb, and we decided we're just gonna stand firm, and we're doing what we're gonna do, and they're just gonna have to deal with it. And they retaliated with tickets, unfortunately.
My question is twofold for the protesters and for Kate. My fear is that with the pending and future elections, that polling people and ICE will spend more time profiling than letting us exercise our right to vote. What are your organizations doing to ensure that people that are standing in line are going to be feeling safe enough to exercise their right to vote? And specifically, Kata, what can we do besides having a valid driver's license to make sure we're not pulled out of line when we are trying to exercise our right to vote?
No, go ahead. I feel like you would probably have a better answer for this.
I don't know if there is a clear answer what we can do. Identifying yourself as an American citizen, it's always good. It's unfortunate that these days we have to carry identification with us to prove our legality and the fact that we're citizens of this country. But that's something we can do. I agree that joining protests, writing our name down, registering online can be used in the future to profile us, find us, come after us. That day will not come anytime soon. We are gonna be at the bottom of the list, unfortunately, the most insignificant ones, but if it goes the direction it's going right now, it's gonna get there eventually. It's not to scare us, it's to motivate us to fight harder. We have to break it now, we have to turn around now before it gets there. Because if it gets there, there's nothing we can do about it. They will find us, they'll come after us. What they did in Albania, they put those people in concentration camps, labor camps. My mom grew up in one. Hopefully that day never comes here, when people that are speaking up now will have to pay for it a couple of years from now. But carry your identification with you, even as an American citizen. Scream it on top of your lungs if someone is filming you. I am an American citizen. I am exercising my rights to protest peacefully, to have my voice heard. Social media helps. If it goes viral, the whole country is gonna fight for you. Find a good lawyer to fight it in court. Use all the channels, all the freedoms, privileges you have right now.
And stand up for your neighbors. If you see it happening to someone, whether you know them or not, make noise, record, make sure people are aware of what's happening. I don't know if you guys all saw the video of the lady, I think, was it in New York?
With the polka?
Yeah, the polka dot dress. She is out there in her work uniform,
Yeah.
watching cat videos on her phone, and saw ICE coming after people, and she dove out in the street and stood there flipping them off. And then pushing guys away. She chased them down the street, like for blocks. She chased them, yelling, "Shame on you! Shame on you!" Do that. It makes them uncomfortable. They think they are in charge. They're scared of us. When there's more of us than them, whether they have weapons or not, they're running away. Watch the videos of ICE. They are terrified when neighbors come out of their houses, when neighbors see something happening and they stand up and start shaming them. They run like cowards. And now they're making databases where you can upload your videos of what ICE are doing and they're gonna start prosecuting them. So keep an eye on what's happening. Be aware of your surroundings, be aware of your neighbors that are going to be getting harassed, that are going to be more vulnerable, and make noise for them. Use your privilege for them.
But I understand your question, Tony. I'm sure for the white people in this room are like, what do you mean they're gonna arrest me? What do you mean they're gonna ask for identification? It's a black person, brown person, immigrant, me speaking with an accent. That's our reality every day. Our citizenship is gonna be questioned. Our legality is gonna be questioned. Everything is gonna be questioned. So I understand your question, but we live with that reality every day just because of our accent, our ancestry, the color of our skin. And it is unfortunate, but for the white people in this room, if it continues the way it goes, you are gonna be next.
And people with a mental health diagnosis.
And maybe two more questions in our formal portion, but Tina, please.
Sorry, can I address this? What can we do about, like, as a protest group? I'm just spitballing here. I hadn't thought of this, but it's like, what can we do? What can we do? I think it would be awesome if, the protest groups could get together and when voting happens, to have times where it's like protest group going together to vote, like taking friends or having a buddy system. Like if someone just wants to call me, if I'm available and I can go with them to the polls to vote, maybe some kind of buddy system like that. Just making people feel comfortable and like they have people to go with.
I encourage each organization here to post on your organizational websites, have your driver's license. You need that anyway, but it might be beneficial to have your birth certificate.
Yeah.
Family members should have copies of that. Community, neighbors, co-workers. So if they take it away from you, throw it in the trash, burn it, then you have proof. Some other people have that proof for you, can go to court for you, to fight for you.
And don't be tricked into assuming that they won't be profiling. If they're profiling at churches, grocery stores, and school, I guarantee you they will be profiling at voting.
And as white people, we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like we're standing out in cold and rain, or we're standing up to ICE. think of how much worse it's going to be if we don't. Put yourself in the other people's shoes that are getting profiled, that are getting yanked off the street and kidnapped. Getting arrested and probably getting bailed out pretty quick isn't that bad in comparison to getting put in labor camps or, you know, standing out in the cold and being uncomfortable, being obnoxious online. It's uncomfortable, but do it because it could be so much worse, and it already is for people that aren't us, and we need to realize that.
So I'm thinking of three more, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, Kata, this is for you. So you talked about keeping your identification on you at all times, which is probably your driver's license, probably a copy of your birth certificate. Do you recommend that every single American apply for a US citizen passport? Because that passport is your book to citizenship.
We can, what's been happening right now, a lot of American citizens are not getting those passports. Those passports are being rejected. Asking for a passport these days is not as easy as it used to be. A lot of people are getting rejected because they know that what's gonna happen eventually when it gets bad here, we're gonna wanna escape it. We're gonna wanna leave the country, and we cannot leave the country without a passport. And that's starting to happen. A lot of wealthy people that can afford to leave the country, can afford an easy life somewhere else, are doing it already. And people are applying like crazy for American passports right now. Not everyone is getting it. So I'm just warning you, if that you want to apply for an American passport, just be aware there are going to be delays and possibly rejections in the future. You can eventually is not gonna help us unless we choose to leave the country. I encourage you to stand fight. I encourage you to help turn it around now so we don't get there. But if it gets to that point and you have that passport and you try to leave the country, the American citizenship is not gonna save you. It's gonna actually keep you here. My husband and I, because I'm Albanian, we can get Albanian passports for ourselves and our child, and maybe even Italian because we lived in Italy for a while. We've been discussing getting an Albanian passport just in case if it gets to that point that it gets so bad that I can use my Albanian passport as a foreigner to leave the country, because we will not be allowed to leave with an American passport. We haven't made that decision yet, but these are things that we've been processing on a daily basis. I encourage your family to process a plan B and plan C. What are we doing? What do we want to do if it gets worse? If it gets better, if it gets a lot worse real fast, and process that with your family, with your community, with your neighbors. Have a plan. Have a plan.
I just want to point out real quick, it goes deeper. My mother, who was born in 1945 in Texas, worked 35 years for the US Postal Service. There's a problem with her birth certificate. So she can't even get a real ID in order to fly. So it goes deeper than just a passport. You have citizens who can't get IDs now because of problems with their birth certificate.
Passport will help you now, but it will not help you later when you are gonna need it. If that's what you decide to do. But for now, it's a great idea.
2 more.
I just want to say thank you. You guys have done a great job. Our comment then is, look at this room. There's not that many people. I'm thrilled to see this many people. But how do we get the word out in terms of all the things that are happening? Were it not for my good friend Ruth, whose church did a great job advertising. I didn't hear anything. I follow Facebook for a couple of these organizations, but I didn't hear anything about this. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I look at the people that were here last weekend protesting. You know, it was packed downtown. I'm sure some of those people would have been thrilled to be here, but don't know about it. So how do we get all the great things that are happening in our community out there so that more people can participate?
I think sharing, yeah, I didn't know about this organization, so Paul was like, we need someone to speak, and like, I wouldn't want it to be me, and we want one of you. And I was like, okay. Yeah, send your flyers. I mean, NWI Activists, as you said, has so many things. They post whatever. Lisa and all the flyers to Lisa or join as NWI activists, and you can post and she'll approve it.
Is there any kind of a central group that unites all of these?
I guess I kind of think it's
I,
NWI activists.
yeah, I've been kind of helping with NWI Resistance, and I have a lot of the people from NWI now in my group as well. Nasty Women of Porter County also sends out an email with the month's updates and stuff.
It's funny you say nasty women, everybody knows what they are.
Yeah.
They are not nasty women, they are the great
And
women.
yeah, and now that I'm like learning about all these other organizations, I wouldn't have even known about this had he not asked me to speak today. So yeah, I've been trying to do a better job, like the debt relief program. I've been trying to find out all these different things. When I send out my newsletters, I'm gonna try to figure out what else is going on in the next couple weeks or whatever, and I'll send the flyers for those as I find them. So yes, please do sign up for my email list. That's probably gonna be the best way to find out about other organizations' things, because I do have a lot of people from other organizations posting in my group. And yeah, join the email list, join the Facebook group, and that will help.
Sure.
I have two things that we can do locally. Everybody is encouraged to do local resistance. I'll ask them to send out newsletters, these things. I've not been a real advocate of writing our elected representatives, but I think it may be important for us because the Republicans in Indiana are talking about redistricting and gerrymandering the two Democratic districts, and one of them is the one we're in. And I'll put together a list of the people that we can contact. There's one Republican who stands against it. I'm not one that believes that any Republicans are worth paying much attention to these days. But I think it's worth our while writing letters. What I'm told is that if you write letters, they have to open them and log them. You can also call them, and I'll try to send out that information. The other thing is that I'm going to put forward a policy for the school board. They've fired a woman for saying something that probably some parent didn't like about Charlie Kirk, and they forced her out. I've never talked to her. I don't know her, but she's been a teacher there for over 20 years. My guess is that she never had a negative evaluation. I don't care what she said, it was protected by free speech. And the administration there threatened to take away her pension if she didn't resign, which is horrible. You work 20 years for a pension. So she resigned, and they think that's it. And some of us spoke against that a month ago, and I'm going to go back with a policy asking that the school board, they said, oh, this is administration. I asked them to adopt a policy that the administration cannot fire people for exercising their First Amendment rights. They think this is over, but I think we ought to make a big stink about it, because what comes next is one of the board members had the gall to say in that same meeting that we appreciate all of the teachers here. But what they did says exactly the opposite. It tells every teacher, better watch your P's and Q's about what you say. And I think that we need to make a stink about it.
Thank you, George.
Folks, if I may interject, we've had a lot of good food for thought, but we want to be respectful of the space. They do need us to be out of the building by 1 o'clock, but I have a solution. Tomorrow from 1 to 3 at Union Community Church, ECHO, which is encouraging community healing and organizing. They are going to be having their every fourth Sunday meeting. I think that will be a perfect place for those of you that want to show up at that meeting, continue this discussion, continue organizing and strategizing around some of the very topics we've heard and talked about today.
Name the church again.
Union Community Church. 602 Monroe Avenue. And that's held every fourth Sunday, and it will be this Sunday from 1 to 3 o'clock. So 602 Monroe Avenue here in Valpo.
And if you guys ever see any flyers for meetings, events, if you know of anything upcoming, please email them to me and I will keep sharing them with the group and things, because I've got probably a bigger reach than a lot of the groups between the email list and stuff. And I want to keep things going as much as possible and keep getting attendance up at things. So pass everything on. I will try to keep everybody updated on everything.
Other hand,
Don't feel powerless.
Hmm.
Don't do something, anything. Start somewhere, see a need, be there. We have power, we're not powerless.
And city council meeting Monday night.
Another hand for our panelists, and I want to thank you all for the time.
You're incredible.
Thank you very much for doing this. Thank you very much, sir.
We're going here and